Good evening, it's Monday the 8th of September. You're tuned in to our 6 p.m. newscast coming to you from Arirang's news centre in Seoul. It's very good to have you with us on this Chuseok, or Korean Thanksgiving Day. I'm Mark Broome. And today is the actual day of Chuseok here in Korea, and the traffic is heavy on the nation's expressways as millions of Koreans travel to and from their hometowns to see their families, enjoy some delicious food and pay respect to their ancestors. The Korea Expressway Corporation says that if you were to leave now, it would take you 6 hours and 20 minutes to get from Seoul to the southern port city of Busan, 5 hours and 40 minutes from Seoul to Gwangju, and 3 hours and 30 minutes from the capital to Gangneung on the east coast. People are also returning home now, so traffic is building on northbound lanes back to Seoul. Leaving now, the journey from Busan to Seoul will take over 7 hours. Expect heavy traffic from other cities as well. Now, Chuseok is one of 2 times of the year in Korea where families have a few days off to spend with one another. One key tradition of Chuseok is paying respects to your ancestors. And in Korea, this is done by setting out a ritual table topped with delicious fresh food. Our Kim Yeon-bin shows us how it looks.
Chuseok is a day to pay respect to one's ancestors. To do that properly, families need to set up a table as part of ancestral rites. During the service, family members pay tribute in front of the ceremonial table. There are 21 different types of food and fruits placed on the table, but they all have a certain position. The jujube on the far left of the table has 1 seed representing past kings from the Joseon dynasty. Next are chestnuts. The 3 nuts, once encased in the same spiky shell, represent the top 3 ministers during the dynasty. Pears have 8 seeds representing 8 provincial governors in charge of the provinces. Lastly, there's an apple, and since it contains numerous seeds, it symbolizes the people. Chuseok also means families can enjoy time together and share the bounties of a good harvest. It's also a time when many people find themselves overdoing it and piling on the pounds. Koreans chow down on songpyeon, or half-moon-shaped rice cake, and japchae, traditional stir-fried glass noodles and vegetables. A traditional Chuseok feast consists of numerous delicacies and side dishes from kimchi to skewered meats. But don't let the smaller portions fool you. It can quickly add up to an average of 1,300 calories per serving. That's nearly 2/3 the daily recommended intake for a woman. So it's best to take it easy, or at least take a brisk walk afterwards. Kim Yeon-bin, 아리랑뉴스.
Now, as well as some of the food on offer, the Chuseok break is an opportunity to enjoy some cultural activities and folk games that are only available during this festive season. Our Ji Myung-gil has more.
The Korea Tourism Organization in downtown Seoul is offering various festivities to help visitors discover the city's traditional side and experience Korean culture. Various folk games such as the Gangneung Sule are played on Chuseok to celebrate the coming of autumn and a rich harvest. The Gangneung Sule is a traditional folk dance performed exclusively by women under the full moon on the night of Chuseok to bring a bountiful harvest for the year. Women dressed in hanbok, the traditional Korean dress, join hands and sing a song while they dance around in a circle.
It was interesting, our first time coming all the way from Malaysia, experiencing the Korean culture itself. And to do the dancing is very interesting and exciting.
Visitors can enjoy plenty of fun folk games that are played around the holiday, such as tuho, arrow throwing, originally an exercise to help warriors hone their skills.
Well, it was rather difficult for me because it was the first time I did it. At the end, I could throw 2 arrows in the hole.
In another corner of the hall, tourists are learning to play a traditional board game called yunori and tegichagi, which is similar to kicking a hacky sack, as well as pengichigi or top spinning.
Yeah, it's quite fun, and then it kind of reminds me of my childhood. We have a similar kind of game like this one in Taiwan. I quite enjoy it actually.
Although Chuseok can be a lonely time for international residents, they can use the holiday period as an opportunity to gain a better understanding of Korea's rich culture. All programs are free and open to the public on a first-come, first-served basis through September 9th. Ji Myung-gil, 아리랑뉴스.
Now, in the rest of the day's news, South Korea is calling for special measures to fundamentally resolve the issue of families divided by the Korean War. In a speech for war-separated families on Monday, Unification Minister Ryu Kil-jae said extraordinary measures were needed, and he urged Pyongyang to answer Seoul's recent proposal for high-level inter-Korean talks on family reunions and other related issues. The minister said efforts needed to be speeded up as thousands of people on both sides of the border are passing away without a chance to reunite with their families just one last time. Almost half of the South Koreans who applied to reunite with their families in the north have died since before, in fact, seeing their loved ones. North Korea is calling for all American troops to withdraw from the Korean peninsula, saying it will lead to better relations between the two Koreas. The North's committee in charge of inter-Korean relations says it's impossible to achieve peace and reunification when the US has thousands of troops based in the south. North Korea also blamed the joint annual military drills between the US and South Korea for its decision to cancel plans to send a 300-member cheering squad to this month's Asian Games in South Korea's port city of Incheon. The United States is once again calling on North Korea to release 3 American citizens detained in the communist nation. US State Department spokesperson Jen Psaki told South Korea's Yonhap news agency that out of humanitarian concerns for the 3 men and their families, the US is requesting Pyongyang release them and let them come home. The comments came after North Korean state TV reported that the North Supreme Court was going to judge one of the detainees, Matthew Todd Miller, on September 14th. Mr. Miller is charged with tearing up his tourist visa and seeking asylum upon entering North Korea in April. The 2 other Americans held in the North are Jeffrey Edward Fowle and Kenneth Bay. Now, in domestic economic news, consumption has been in the doldrums since the Seoul ferry disaster in April, and the aftermath of the tragedy is still affecting the economy nearly 5 months after that ship sank. That said, the Bank of Korea says Korean spending overseas increased 9.7% in the second quarter compared to the first 3 months of the year. That is, in fact, the biggest quarterly jump since the first half of 2012. Central bank officials attribute the spike in overseas consumption to the increasing number of Koreans taking vacations outside of Korea. The United States has carried out more airstrikes on Islamic State militants near strategically important dam in Iraq at the request of the government in Baghdad. On the diplomatic front, US President Barack Obama will lay out his strategy this week to tackle the radical militants, but he stressed the US is not going to wage another war in Iraq. Our Connie Kim reports.
The United States has begun launching airstrikes around a key dam in Iraq as Washington steps up its aerial bombardment of key Islamic State positions. Upon the Iraqi government's request for support near the Haditha Dam, officials say the strikes helped Iraqi forces launch a ground offensive that destroyed Islamic State vehicles and forced the militants to retreat. This is the first time the U.S. has attacked IS positions in Iraq's Anbar region.
They, too, the Iraqi security force, Air Force, is conducting strikes. Haditha Dam is a critically important facility for Iraq. It is, I think, the second largest hydroelectric dam in Iraq.
U.S. President Barack Obama will lay out Washington's game plan to defeat the terrorist group this week. In an interview with NBC on Sunday, Obama said he will give a speech outlining his tactics on Wednesday after first meeting with congressional leaders from both parties at the White House on Tuesday. The president stressed that his plans will not involve U.S. boots on the ground in Iraq or Syria.
This is not going to be an announcement about U.S. ground troops. This is not the equivalent of the Iraq War.
President Obama is now back in Washington following a NATO summit in Wales, where leaders saw eye to eye on the need to destroy Islamic State. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
There has been renewed fighting in eastern Ukraine. Ukrainian forces have come under artillery and gunfire in the first serious test to a very shaky ceasefire. Our Gwangju has this report.
Smoke lingers in the air above the rebel-held eastern Ukrainian city of Donetsk while citizens frantically search for shelter. Some residents of this war-torn city blame the country's president as a ceasefire agreement with the pro-Russian separatists only came into force 2 days ago.
Petro Poroshenko should be here, for him to be here with his children, just as people walk with their children here. The disabled, the elderly. What terrorists can be here?
Fighting broke out to the north of Donetsk after shelling resumed on Saturday near the port of Mariupol. The peace plan that was signed on Friday by Ukrainian envoys and Russian-backed rebels is aimed at ending the 5-month conflict that has already killed almost 3,000 people. While both sides claim the other violated the ceasefire, Amnesty International has condemned all parties. It accuses them of endangering the lives of civilians and violating their international obligations. NATO, meanwhile, will provide weapons and military advisors to boost its defenses in Eastern Europe in response to the Ukraine crisis. The move looks sure to up tensions in the sharpest confrontation between Russia and the West since the end of the Cold War. 황지혜, 아리랑뉴스.
And that's all we have for now. Enjoy the rest of your Monday and stay tuned to Arirang TV. Make the most of your extended Chuseok break. If you're watching us here in Korea and if you're going anywhere, please drive safely. We'll be back again for our next newscast at 10 p.m. Korea time. Until then, goodbye.